welcome to our next episode of MoveCo Live. Today I'm talking with a really good friend of mine and someone really well known in Ottawa, and you might already be following her and her T.I.G.E.R method on Instagram and social media, Janine Charron. Janine, so nice to see you today. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I always love hearing you speak. I've heard you speak in person before at the Women in Business Conference. I follow you online. I've taken some of your T.I.G.E.R method um, training. You're such an inspiration. And before this call, we said, what are we going to talk about today? Because Janine is really that woman who has kind of been through a little bit of everything. And I think what we're all living through right now with this pandemic, and I think anxiety is a little high. Our multitasking capacities are kind of really being tested right now. So it's really nice if you just today during our talk, grab a cup of water, a nice warm tea, sit back and let's hear from Janine, because I think she's going to have she's going to have so many little words of wisdom to share with us on things. She's going to give real life examples on her life. She has a very impressive bio. I'm going to put it in our show notes, everyone. From an athlete, mother of three, business entrepreneur, cancer survivor, coach, motivational speaker, so many things, a community builder, number one, too. So thank you so much, Janine, for us to have this courageous conversation, I want to say, because I think from these MoveCo Live podcasts, people just leave feeling, just feeling a little more inspired, feeling a little bit more courageous to maybe share their story. And I think that's really what you're going to do today. When I asked Janine, what do you want to talk about? She's like, I'm an open book. So don't be shy, Samantha, like ask me whatever you want. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to do that. And I think, bravo to you. Not everyone can do that and feel a safe space to do that. So I think, you're truly an inspiration, Janine. So, let's just get right into it. You're an athlete of many hats. Can you tell us a little bit about your sports background?
Yes, actually, grew up here playing ringette of all things. It's really actually funny how most people know me for my hockey career, but they don't really know it was started with a ringette career. And my father put me in a hockey camp. I was probably like 14. I had to be with like 8-year-olds because I had no hockey skills whatsoever. I remember I sat in the change room with the instructors because I wasn't with all the young kids. And I came home that day and said I never wanted to play ringette again. And that gave birth to the hockey career. Now, my dad was very smart in the things that he did when I was younger. At the time, I thought they were, Dad. My brother and I both received athletic scholarships to the US for our hockey careers. And my brother would send home like his stick handling drills, and my dad would be like spray painting green dots on the street so I could do my stick handling drills, to get the repetition in. But yeah, I played everything in high school, touch football, track, relay, all that good stuff. The only thing I did play was basketball, but I think it's just because I was really bad at it. It didn't make me feel good. So
that's amazing. So, okay. So this tenacity that your dad instilled in you, it got you a scholarship. Where did you end up going?
The University of New Hampshire. Yes, it was very exciting. I spoke to Harvard and Yale and Princeton. I had decent grades, but they wanted me to go to their prep school. They had some conversations about it, but I was only 14, 15. My parents weren't going to send me to the U.S. at that time. Yeah, and that was very exciting. I went on a couple different recruiting trips, St. Lawrence University in New Hampshire. I came back and I was like, I'm going to New Hampshire. We had a really fun time. And I'm a Wildcat at heart, which is really funny that they were called, my high school was called the Tigers and the university was called the Wildcats, and then my T.I.G.E.R method. So I think this little T.I.G.E.R method was in me for a long time.
I think so. Can you talk to me about meeting your husband and finding love?
Ooh, is anybody listening on Facebook? So I was going through a divorce from my first marriage when I was living in Austin, Texas. And one of my girlfriends literally was like, you need to meet Greg. And I'm from Ottawa. He was in Ottawa. And I was like, why? I'm never leaving Texas. Austin, Texas is very cool when the world opens up if you need a place to visit. Anyways, literally, I added him on Facebook. I remember I used to work for Lululemon. I was one of their assistant managers. That's actually really how I got into the whole personal development culture piece. They've got an amazing culture for that. But yeah, I remember just adding him on Facebook and walking out for my shift. And then when I came back, there was a message and it was like, hey, you look familiar. And I was like, yeah, okay, how many girls do you say that to? But we got on the phone and spoke for 5 hours a night for 2 months, hadn't met in person. We actually came up with Inside Out Studio Bar 3 weeks into speaking, again, just 5 hours a night. And I think it was actually a really beautiful way to meet. So those of you that are, I know we're in a pandemic, or if you're single or wanting to meet someone, it's actually kind of a blessing because it removes the pressure of the physical and we really had to get to know each other, and we just talked and talked and talked, and we kind of, shared what we were afraid of. And I really truly believe when we met in person, that 2 months that created that foundation for 5 hours a night was really what kept us going through a lot of tough times, because we had gone so deep in those conversations. So yeah, here we are 10 years later, 3 kids. one of them's a bonus child, my bonus child Logan, aka stepson, and then he's 15, and Sally is 7, and George is 6.
Oh, I love it. I've gotten 2 goosebumps since you've been talking. One was like talking about your sports career, just like it's your true nature. And then talking about love. I love that when you said, get to know someone and speak. And, you brought up that, you guys had a business idea that came through those conversations. Tell people about the Inside Out Bar Studio.
Well, it's kind of funny because looking back, there's always a common thread in your life that you go back to, and you'll notice those people that are quite passionate about certain things. I've seen my T.I.G.E.R method manifest in many different areas of my life when I'm creating something. So Inside Out, I wanted to call it Inside Out because I truly believe we can transform bodies. You can look great on the outside, but you're not truly transformed unless happiness is an inside job until you do that work. And hence the word Inside Out. I thought it was a very powerful name. And I had the vision for that along with the mindset piece. And Greg and I, our background in fitness, he's done bodybuilding and different fitness. I've competed. I've done smaller triathlons. I've done marathons, half marathons, I've competed as well. So we looked at franchising, but then we still felt like we were being pigeonholed into what we could and couldn't do. And we wanted to be our own boss and create. So yeah, we just decided to go for it. I'd be a lot more scared to do what I did now then, but there were so many learnings. In a Coles Note version, we met in 2010 online, as I told you, on Facebook. I moved home in 2011. 2012, we opened the doors to Inside Out Studio Bar. So it's a luxury brand studio bar. If any of you are familiar with Ballet Bar, it's come a long way in Canada, but like there's Bar Method and Pure Bar and all these different bar classes in the States. Anyways, so 2012, we opened the door. 2013, we gave birth to Sally. 2014, we gave birth to George. I always joke, and my mom's like, don't say he was an oopsie, but he kind of was not planned. But a beautiful blessing when you hear the rest of my story. 2015, we opened a second location in Stittsville, which for us was not the right location. And I've been asked to speak at business conferences to talk about the learnings, because what happened there was we were young entrepreneurs. We were doing very well. Classes were full. We thought we could just pop up and recreate, and we invested all this money, and then we ended up having to go through a bankruptcy. So, being a fitness professional, to go through that behind closed doors and really not acting healthy at all, dealing with the stress, it was a very eye-opening experience, one that I'm actually very grateful for. A lot of people I know when things are down and we can't explain why bad things happen to good people, and I take full responsibility for how we got to that point. It was a million different little decisions and choices that led up to the bankruptcy, but it broke us down and we had to rebuild, and we really had to look in the mirror and the only one that's going to get us out of this is us. And we were making bad choices behind closed doors in terms of, maybe having too much wine to deal with the stress instead of seeing it head on. And we all deal with stress differently, but we had a good wake up call, and we got to work and we rebuilt our first location again. And that was such a blessing. 2017, I'll never forget that summer. It was like a decision was made to rebuild. The intention was set, and like a month later, classes were full again.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Breathe, that's a lot.
I know. Sometimes when I tell my story, I'm like, oh, what else is there? Like I have 2 children. I truly believe that I am a vessel that, like, someone put me here on earth to have all these experiences so that when I do talk to people, they resonate. Like even Sally, she was a regular birth. George was a C-section. Like I've had all these different experiences, and that's why I'm always grateful for everything good and bad, because I feel like it just sets me up to be a better coach or mentor because I've experienced it too.
Absolutely. So what was that aha moment? When did you know it was time to say goodbye to Inside Out?
When it was an 80-hour job and not a business. I mean, small businesses are tough because, and there's many small businesses that do it right, but it really solely was on my shoulders. It felt like mine and Greg's, and we have an amazing team. I'm not taking anything away from that, but when you really take an owner, like, you want that time freedom, right? And you're in business, you want to make money. Everyone knows that you want that lifestyle to have that choice, and we definitely did. But the owner of a small business is the heart and soul, essentially, and they really affect the vibe and all that. And I just felt like my energy was being there. It was causing marital problems at home, because if an instructor couldn't show up. I'll never forget, we were in Tremblant, one of the first times we ever were able to get away, and an instructor wasn't able to show up for the 6 a.m. class. Well, integrity is one of my core values. And I was an old faithful 6 a.m. workout person back in high school and through my career in college. And if someone had canceled that class, I would have been devastated. So I literally left my family, got into a huge fight with Greg about it. But when you have 20 people registered for a class, I'm like, I would rather drive back and be there to open the door for those 20 people to start their day than say, oh, sorry, and just cancel the class because selfishly I wanted to stay. But so I was realizing more and more I was sacrificing my family. I was missing out. Like, Sally and George were in diapers, and I just, like, let me see, 2017. So they would have been 3 and 4. So I really wanted more family experiences. I mean, we went through a lot of stress. Brand new. I went through my divorce in 2010, meet Greg online, married, babies, 1 location, 2 location, bankruptcy, rebuild. It was like, you know what? We need an exit strategy. Now I'm online as well with my health and wellness business. So I was starting to generate some money online, and it was like for a whole lot less overhead. And, when you like our operating costs versus what I was doing, it was kind of like we could have this freedom from anywhere that we have Wi-Fi versus, so we kind of started thinking about an exit strategy. And when it presented itself, we took it.
I love it. You have a very strong why. You can tell that the core of who you are is really your family and your children. So what has it meant for you now, like having this time with them, and probably more time than you expected because you're home more. So how does that feel?
Well, it's funny. You think just leave, like, don't get me wrong. When we were looking to get out of the studio as well, I just want to be very transparent, like rent was high in Westboro. I mean, we would have full classes, but there were times where I'd still be crying in my car. I just want to paint that picture. It wasn't like, I just want to be brutally honest, like I'd be crying in my car and then have to walk through the door. I'm a professional, so I'm going to put it's not about me, it's about you when you walk into my studio. So we had other stresses other than just wanting to be home with our family. But sorry, what was your question? I knew I was going
like, how does it feel? Yeah, I mean,
to be home. Yes. Yeah. Well, this part of the story is really important to getting to that part. So 2019 new owners took over. Greg at the time had picked up a dental sales job. So you think, like, there's a lot of small business owners and they have other jobs on the side. They're living their passion and dream, but they're trying to make ends meet.
Yes.
We lost it. And here I was thinking, like, oh, I can really focus on my T.I.G.E.R method and do my online business. And then it was like, well, do what you got to do. You got 5 mouths to feed. I had to go. So I was looking to get back in the job. And luckily, I joined an amazing team at Smart Cell Telus, one of the dealerships owned by Stephen Bowser, who's an awesome, awesome owner, and started there. Now, the reason why they are such a blessing in my story, and not just because of this, I've met an amazing team. Greg started another job finally in December of 2019. March 2020, COVID happens. I get laid off because of cutbacks at the time. 3 weeks later, I get called back. My benefits had kicked in January. In May, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow. I
literally woke up one day with a hand on my left breast, and literally, like, I'll never forget. I was having really crazy dreams, and it was like somebody was trying to get my attention. And I do believe it was my grandpa, who called me T.I.G.E.R. His wife got breast cancer at 55 and died from it at 63. And yeah, May 5th, it gets me like teary eyed. My hand was on my chest and I was like, Greg, what is this? And he was like, call the doctor. May 6th, I'm in the doctor's office. And then the 19th, I'm in the cancer clinic. And they still have to do a biopsy, but the woman who I could tell when they called me back to do another mammogram and look at it, and 3 people come in, I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And I said, do I have breast cancer? And she goes, 95 to 99% sure this is breast cancer, but we still have to do the biopsy. So I knew, I had a gut feeling that that's what it was. And then had so much support from TELUS and, well, Smart Cell TELUS, and here we are. That journey, I just got back to work last week. And that's been quite the journey. I'm sure you have some questions around that, but yeah.
Wow. So, you know, you talked about it and like, you just like wrapped it up, you zoom through it, but let's take a step back and, you know, you talk about your grandfather and the message and the T.I.G.E.R, like, you know, I always say, like, what prepared you in your life to deal with this? Can we bring up some of the stuff, you know, like, can we bring up the T.I.G.E.R method and your grandfather and the connection that you have in all of this, and tell me, because it's a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, mindset is everything, and that's what the foundation of the T.I.G.E.R method is all about, mindset. When I worked with, when I was in the U.S. in 2010 with my ex-husband, I mean, I recognized Lululemon Athletica, so immediately when I got my paperwork, I was like, that's the first place I applied, because I was like, what a great way to meet the community, be around other athletes, and then kind of, I mean, I love building community and connecting with people, and they are really big into personal development, and they would send employees to what's called Landmark Education.
I know Landmark, yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah, and they did, like, we had to do goal setting. Like, part of being paid at Lululemon was like your goals. You got to sit down with the manager and go over your goal setting. Literally in Texas, I just was so passionate about it. It took off. Like, people would come into the Austin Lululemon store and be like, is Janine here? We want her to do a goal setting. And I was then talking with the Longhorns baseball team to help them, like, how do we set goals for their champion? And they won the championship that year. And then I was speaking at one of the universities in San Antonio, and then I was speaking at some high schools. So it kind of took on a life of its own. And then when my grandfather passed away in 2010, and I'll never forget that experience, because he probably should have passed a couple months before he did in 2009. And I remember being on the phone being like, you better wait for me. I'm coming to see you. And he did. And I feel very blessed, because I did get to see him, and I called him from the airport, and I was like, Grandpa, I just want to say how much I love you. And he was like, I know. It gets me emotional. And I was like, no, I really love you. And he was like, I know. And that was the last time we spoke. And when I got the call that he had passed, I sat in a coffee shop, and the T.I.G.E.R method came out. So you're probably like, what the hell's the T.I.G.E.R method? Sorry. There's a lot of pieces to my story I haven't talked about in a while.
It's so beautiful. Like, what a legacy for your grandpa. Like, he's so happy. He's so happy.
Yeah. Thank you. He was a great man. So was my grandma. So was my other set of grandparents. But we just had, you know, sometimes you just have a bond with somebody. I can't even explain it. I don't even know. Like, sometimes I've been like, where did this even start? We got each other, I guess. And it wasn't even like we don't even have to talk about it. Anyway, so the T.I.G.E.R method, it's evolved. And for those of you that are working on goals or creating projects, the most important thing is just show up. It's going to be messy. Nothing's perfect. But I find over the last decade of experience and ups and downs, it evolves, and you get so much more clear on what it is. So the T.I.G.E.R method is a self-love project that anchors you to your internal compass, transforming you from the inside out. So you can even see, like, Inside Out is in there, my studio. You know, I've had to go through some major obstacles and come back to that center, that heart and soul voice, to realign myself. And then actually through the breast cancer, the beautiful lesson and the gift that breast cancer gave me was I couldn't muscle my way through it. I'm a very strong girl. And I had to be still. And this is when my meditation practice for my personal self started. And I've always had a really strong intuition, and that just really opened it up. And I feel like I've tapped more into that feminine energy instead of always being like, ah, Janine, here comes Janine. It's like a big bull in a china shop. Anyone who knows me. Yeah. But yeah, the T.I.G.E.R method is an acronym. And there's 5 different areas to it. I'm not going to go into it because it would take forever. But the very first, it's really neat how it kind of came to be, because 2010, it's initially started, and it's the mindset piece, which is, and then 2017 was the body piece, 2020 was the soul, and then there's the emotional and the social. But it's just really neat because when people talk about wellness, it's usually mind, body, soul. So it came out in that order. So the mind piece is, the T is transform your thinking. So the first thing when somebody's trying to change, or not even change, there's nothing wrong with us. We're not broken. We don't need to fix. We just need to evolve and elevate and have more self-awareness. So I always, like, who do you listen to? Who do you surround yourself? What's your environment like? All those things. So the things that we are allowing to go into our mind, which, think about it, social media and news, think about all the negativity that we're getting, or women bombarded with body images that's around. So you really have to be the gatekeeper of your mind and filter what is allowed in and what's allowed out. Our thoughts are our thoughts. It's not who you are. And you get to decipher, that's not going to serve me. I'm not going to do that. Or is this in alignment with my core values? So the transform your thinking piece is all about that foundation of thought. The I is ignite your passion and purpose. So that one can sound, some people, you don't need to find your passion. Passion is an energy, like, simplify it to the core. It's an energy that is produced when you do something that you love to do. So I always tell people, like, what's that childlike person and you love to do? We get so caught up in being a mother and being a wife and being an employee, and we don't do anything for ourselves that we love, like go horseback riding. Like the other day we went to Mooney's Bay. My mom's 69, almost 70, and she sat between my sister and I, and we flew down the hill screaming. I'm worried about my chest because I still have to have more surgery, and I'm like, I can't fall off this toboggan. But we went down, the three of us, screaming our heads off, and I was like invigorated when I got down to the bottom of the hill. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's all it takes to shift someone's mood. So the I is about passion and purpose. And then the G is about goal setting, self-explanatory. There's lots of information on the World Wide Web to help you create SMART goals. The E is about execute. So we can have this great conversation. You can be a consumer of content all you want. Go to all the seminars, but if you don't take action, nothing happens. And actually, the very first vision statement that I had created with the T.I.G.E.R method was, my vision was to create a world of wishful thinking into a world of powerful action. And action is the bridge between the thought and the end result. And then the R is revise. Okay, let's go back. You know what? I thought I wanted to learn about this. I realized this, I actually love this. Like, sometimes you start learning about something and you're like, you know what? This door, I'm actually not passionate about this, but it led me to open that door. Or I met this mentor. I love asking people when I interview them, who do I need to know? Who do I need to connect with in the city? And building my network that way. Who do I need to learn from? And then it goes through, okay, maybe there's another passion. Maybe there's another goal. Take action, revise. So you can weave through the T.I.G.E.R method. It really is a lifestyle. It's a way of being that's ever evolving. It's about showing up. And then the body part in 2017, when you hear my story, when we were down and so toxic, mind, thought, body, I created the body part. So the first thing we look at, what's your toxicity in your body like? Unhealthy foods you eat, unhealthy drinks you drink, environments that are on. So we need to address toxicity. The I deal with intermittent fasting for gut health. The G, intermittent fasting. The G is gut health. The E is exercise. And then the R is rest. Then there's a spiritual side and an emotional and a social. And there's an acronym for all of those. I won't get into it, but it really, as I grew through my struggles and obstacles, the T.I.G.E.R method evolved with me. So it's really powerful in that sense that it encourages me to tell people, you just got to keep walking through the storm, because eventually the sun is going to come out. And the willingness to go where there's resistance is where the real gifts are. I truly believe that. And when I get sweaty palms and I'm nervous to do something, I know that's like, oh, I got to have that uncomfortable conversation. We're sitting there anxious and there's an issue with someone, just pick up the phone and have the conversation, and do it in person. Don't do it in text. God, don't hide behind a device. You can shorten the gap between stress, anxiety, depression, all these things by taking control of your mind, taking control of your body, creating boundaries with what you accept in your life and what you don't. And I've learned that the hard way. I was always a people pleaser and I was a yes person. Now I like to say no. Not that there's anywhere to go. We're in a pandemic.
Well, my coach actually told me you should practice saying no at least once a day. Like, you have to actually practice it the same way you practiced your yes. And that just helps you get, and,
polite ways to say no. Did she give you examples of polite ways to say no?
It's not even about, it's no. It could be as simple as, yeah, mom, can you make me that peanut butter sandwich? No, no, like just no, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you the tools on how to go make it, right? So, but yeah, just practicing that no. I think given our environment right now, some people would say we've been forced to rest. In your story, you were forced to rest through
Yeah, I had a double mastectomy for those wondering. Because of COVID, they had to take one breast at a time. So it was like June 18th, we removed the left, which actually looking back was a blessing because I've got the two littles and they required a working arm. I wonder, like for women that have to do both at the same time. So June 18th was my left breast and then August 22nd was the right. And yeah, it just allowed for the healing with having the work.
yeah, and this whole rest thing, like I think I see a lot of literature and just the movement towards like, less is more and just like less being like a thing that we put in our to-do lists. Can you, as someone, it's clear you have high energy, you're a busy body, you have a busy family life, a busy work life. Like, give us real ways. Like, how does one rest?
I feel like everybody should get this book.
Oh, I love Jim Shetty.
A monk. Honestly, we think about how we've evolved as a society, and it's to no one's fault other than the great, amazing imagination of mankind. I mean, it's beautiful. It's like technology, but as we develop all these new things, these new ways of communicating, we have to be able to put the boundaries and filter as well. Don't get me wrong, guys. I have not mastered it. I've tried to take it one day at a time. Like yesterday was a great day. I got up, I read for half an hour, I got my workout in, I did my work. I had, because I was, and turning off distractions is so important to helping you feel happy. Like wherever you are, be there. Whereas instead you're at the park and you're texting on your phone trying to do work or whatnot. So really learning when you're doing your craft,
In the moment, yes.
Yes. And I really, when we came home, it's really funny. I feel like everyone, I'm sure you felt this too. When the first week at home was like, well, it's like vacation. We don't have to be at work. We get to be home. And then like 2 weeks in, you're like, oh my God, I don't need to do this anymore. Get me out. It was really, I truly believe it took a couple months of unwinding. And that's why when you think of corporate America or corporate America in Canada, corporations, 2 weeks a year for vacation is not enough to help someone unwind. So if you're not making it a daily practice, like the time is now. Your well-being cannot wait. So it really kind of was a spotlight on how busy I was and how not at home I was. Even for the business, like I would open the studio, so I didn't see them at breakfast time. I would close the studio, I wouldn't see them at bedtime. And those are the little things and it was a sacrifice for an amazing community built in Ottawa and my heart and soul for Inside Out and Greg and, the sacrifices we had to make. But when we came home, it was like, I'd get up, work out, run to the office, run to an event for my passion projects, and then be home at 8 to tuck them in. And there was it brought it, you know what it did? And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. It brought us back to the kitchen table. Like meals where I could sit down and not feel stressed and be like, what are you grateful for? We always talk about what we're grateful for at the dinner table. Yeah, it really forced to slow down and like stop worrying about all the other, just focus on your own. We went for family walks. I said to Greg, I'm like, I'm ashamed that we haven't done this before. Like we did stuff, but it was so busy that not all five of us, I don't know. How did you feel like?
I know, and I feel you're very relatable. Everything you just said. No, I feel like that the number one takeaway from that is just be in the moment of where you are. I have a 21-month-old son, and he reminds me of
cute.
So that's my big why of like winding down. Part of my winding down of my day is actually playtime with him. I know that he comes home by a certain time, so can I have dinner ready before? Can I have some of the chores done? So then it's all about like him and I playing, experiencing things together, and honestly, like it's a joy that's unmeasurable. And as someone, so it's like my non-negotiable now. Like I set that as a standard.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
I was gonna say what's tough with that though is we were able to come to a home. Some people are going to a home by themselves, Some people are closing their businesses. So there's a flip side. I don't want to take away from others that, you know, going through this. Like we all have I was battling breast cancer. So I'm grateful that I had a home. I said to Greg, I go, could you imagine if we had Inside Out? We would have lost our house. We would have lost our studio, and we'd be battling cancer. And his mom was diagnosed with cancer 2 weeks after me. Imagine how my husband's feeling. And we lost her, unfortunately, December 22nd. So like 2020 can go take a hike.
Exactly, exactly. So we're all going through so many different things, but what I think, thank you so much, Janine. This courageous conversation. You touched on so many parts of the human existence, and we can have a whole actual other episode on just like little parts of all of the different things you've gone in, because we didn't have a chance to over deep dive and anything. But you know, you provided us the foundations of what the T.I.G.E.R method is, and I'm going to drop your in the show notes your Instagram page so people can continue to learn from you and be inspired by you. And you know, Think Like a Monk. Jay Shetty also has an amazing podcast, so if you guys haven't checked that out already, it's one of the ones I listen to and I really enjoy. And
I
yeah,
think it's important too, if you're trying to do anything in your life to up level, just start small. Like go for a walk. I'm such a all or nothing person. I used to go balls to the wall. Like I got to run for an hour. So that was the beauty of the meditation and this pandemic. It was like, slow down. You can go for a walk and that's okay. And if it's there. So even reading, like if I know we're busy, we've got virtual, we're trying to do work, we're trying to do virtual schooling. Just say, make a commitment 5 pages a day and write for 5 minutes, journal, whatever, but start small, and it will get bigger and bigger the more you master your time and get rid of all the outside noise.
I love that. Exactly. Don't wait 30 days to make a new habit. Like just start today with something so small, and that small thing will compound. And yeah, I it's a constant reflection. And you know, thank you, Janine, for helping us stay on our path and for talking to us today on MoveCo Live. MoveCo Live is brought to you by the Green Beaver Company, an amazing Canadian company that's been around for over 20 years. They keep us healthy and safe with great products. I'm going to put in the show notes a 25% off promo code for you guys to enjoy that. And Janine, till our next conversation, be well, take care, and yeah, let's send all the positive vibes for 2021 for us to just thrive and you know, reach these goals and just become better humans.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I feel grateful even to be asked to share.